Hi everyone. So in regards to the end of the semester, I just wanted to say that, it's been very enlightening, to say the least, of, just being able to learn about yourself and learn, the small things that you do, or, how things in your childhood, your adolescence, your early adulthood, how everything affects you now. And I think it's really important to just take into consideration that, not everything, not every part of who you are now is because of you. That some parts of you are simply because of your experiences in infancy, in your newborn stage, or in your adolescence, in your teenage, or in puberty. There's just so many different aspects that make you who you are, which is why I feel it's important to just take into consideration that, as adults, we are responsible for our actions, but we don't always understand why we do what we do. So I think that's important, and I think that this whole semester gave me personally some great insight into, what I can do differently, or, why I do the things that I do. Anyway, regardless of any of that, the 4 things that I want to talk about are secure attachment, co-sleeping, animism, and the executive functions. So the first one is the secure attachment, and that's just says the ideal attachment response when a child responds with joy at being united with a primary caregiver. And that one, for me, I have 2. My father and my grandmother. And whenever my dad would come home, I just have these great memories of running down the stairs, daddy's home, and I think that that's really important because it's not something that I ever had with my mom. And I think that that's in part because of, what she was doing during the early stages of my life, but also too that, my dad was the one who was cooking, who was cleaning, who was there at every game, who, took us to practices. He was mom and dad. And I think that's primarily why I had such a great attachment with him. And then also my grandmother, so with this one, the secure attachment was there, the ideal attachment response. But also too, I had grave anxiety whenever she would leave. I remember crying on the stairs, don't go, don't go. So I think that one was, for me, being able to understand now what that was, because it's not just simply, of course children love their parents, but it's that secure attachment with the caregiver that it makes them happy when they see, that person. And then also too, I do have a son. He's almost 3 months old now. His name is Kingston. And a big thing for me was co-sleeping. We hear about in our culture, there's so many for co-sleeping and there's so many that are against it. And it's ultimately up to what the mother decides and what she's comfortable with, and what the people are around her are recommending and stuff like that. And for me, a Ferber study that was done in 1985 talked about how children who co-sleep would have excessive dependency, and that's not something that I ever wanted to create for my child. I want him to know how to be independent and everything, but then a Japanese study done by Yang and Hahn in 2002, so 17 years after the original study, it showed that it was excessive dependency, that that the child was unable to be independent even thereafter, during toddlerhood. But this study was the opposite. It was saying that it's crucial to their love, it's crucial to their care, and as they age, it gives them an edge on being more loving and more caring when they did co-sleep with the parents compared to when they didn't. Now, for me, the only issue that I had with co-sleeping was the safety. You hear so many horror stories of, people rolling over, on their infants, on their toddlers even, people that are really heavy sleepers or not even heavy sleepers, these terrible things happening to their children. And so that for me was a big decision on why I chose a bassinet, because it's never something that I want to have to experience, of him maybe not waking up one day. This one mom, I read a study, she was talking about how for 4 years, the child had always slept in the bed. And one day she woke up and she couldn't find her son, and she was looking all over, and then she saw something rolled up at the bottom of the bed, and in the pit of her heart, she knew that it was her son. So other than dependency, safety for me too was also a big thing on the co-sleeping. Anyway, two others, the Socioemotional Development. In our book, Belsky, Experiencing the Lifespan, she says it's a belief that inanimate objects are alive. So for me, looking back in my early childhood, 4 or 5, I remember, going to school, being by myself, going to the restroom, and I was always afraid to excuse me, to like flush the handle, because I always felt like the toilet was gonna come alive, something was gonna pop out of the toilet. Like I always felt like afraid that it was real, that it was alive. And so that for me, the animism, even back when we had our discussions, that was something for me that I was like, oh wow, that's what it is. Because before this course, I had no idea. I didn't have a word, a definition to describe those small feelings that you have in adolescence or childhood. But now it's like you could take that animism word and you can literally see that inside of you when you were younger. So I think it's amazing. And that's why I absolutely love this course. It's not something that I would personally take like on my own, because I'm more into math and science and stuff, but learning these terms for what I was feeling back then, amazing. Anyway, so the last one is the executive function, and that has to do with the frontal lobes of the brain. And our book went into a very deep discussion on the differences in inhibition. And it's basically as you teach the child to fight against their natural, I keep looking over here because my laptop's right there and I have my notes right there. Anyway, against their natural impulses. So I remember, my parents always going back to, the aggression, not taking just because you wanted, but, stuff like that, being able to share. And it goes against our natural impulses to keep what we like and to get what we want as children. And, if we have to fight for the pencil, we're going to fight for the pencil. But this gives us the Kirkham and Anzo study that the book talks about. It gives us, it says to measure the differences in inhibition. So the researchers ask the children to perform like a task, like they'll show them a white picture and ask them to say black. Anyway, those 4 things, the secure attachment, the co-sleeping, the socio-emotional development, the animism part, and the executive function, those are the 4 things that I feel like this semester I took the most out of the book. The later, middle age to latter age, I think are important and essential, but these beginning functions are something that I resonated with more. Anyway, it's been great. Thank you so much for watching, and it was such a great semester. Thank you.